Alright, we are on page 566. I'm sorry, not page 566. Page 564. 564. 564 is where we are. Alright. We're going to be doing place values today. So it's just like we've done before. Okay, we've always done place value with things that come before the decimal points. Let's put a couple more here. Alright, let's say we have a decimal point here. Okay. Just kind of review. When we're on the left side of the decimal points, what's this spot here called? This is the ones. This part is the ones. Okay, then this one is the
hundreds.
Then it's tens. And then hundreds. Okay? Now, when we get to this side of the decimal, our first place is tenths. Okay? And so really, it always looks like the decimal is in the middle of our place value, but really our ones place is in the middle of our place value. Okay. So then we have hundredths, and then we have thousands, or I should say thousands. Right? Because remember, when we're going this way to the left, we go ones, tens, hundreds, thousands going that way, but then we go the opposite way when we have decimals. We do the opposite. And when we get to tenths are smaller than ones, and hundredths are smaller than tenths, thousands are smaller than hundreds, they keep getting smaller and smaller. Even though we normally think 10, 100, 1,000, we normally think that's getting bigger. With decimals, we're going the opposite. With decimals, we gotta kind of reverse our thinking and go the opposite way. So we have ones, tenths, hundreds, thousands, right? And as you get smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? That's how it works with decimals, okay? So, if we have, like on your book, okay, look at that green square at the top of page 564, okay? The way you write that as a fraction would be 1 over 1, right? Because it's one whole, so you just write 1 over 1. As a decimal, you just write 1 because it's one whole, and we would say 1. Question, cadence? You may. Alright? But then, when we have the square there divided up into 10 pieces, each of those is a tenth. Alright? And you see that each of those rows is smaller than the one whole, right? Okay, and that's the most important thing we can understand. When we're talking about decimals, just like with fractions, we're talking about numbers that are smaller than 1, but bigger than 0. So less than 1 whole. And so because the tenths are smaller pieces, we say a tenth is smaller than 1. Okay? And the way we would write that on our number line, we would have, after the decimal, we would say 1. And we can put a 0 in the ones place just to kind of alert us to the fact that there's a decimal coming up, a decimal number. Alright, sometimes we just put a 0 there to help us with that. Alright, now, then we go a little smaller with 100. So we've broken our square up on page 564. We've broken our square up into 100 pieces. Now, is each of those pieces smaller than the pieces in the one next to it with the tenths? Those hundredths are smaller than the tenths, right? So even though they're numbers that we typically think of as being bigger, 10, 100, right? We typically think of 100 being bigger than 10. We're doing the opposite with decimals. Okay? So those hundredth pieces, so one of those 100th pieces would be smaller than one of those tenth pieces, you see? So, if I have, I read this 1/10, Alright? But to write 100th as a decimal, I'm going to put a 0 in my tenths place because there's nothing there in my tenths, right? This is smaller than a tenth. But then I put a 1 in my hundredths place. So if you see 0.01, that's 1/100th. Okay? And when you read these decimals, always look at the place value of your last digits. Always look at the place value of your last digit. That will tell you whether it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay? Always look at the place value of the last digit. What's the place value of the last digit here, everyone?
Hundredths.
Hundredths. So this is 1/100th. Okay? Got it so far? You with me? Okay. No? You're not with me? Okay, what don't you get?
This is bigger than that, so you'd have to put 0 greater than 1, 0 greater than 1.
What don't you get?
How you're doing it.
Well, it's not a matter of how I'm doing it. It's just that is 1/100th. Okay, just remember that is 100. 0.01. That 1 is in the hundredths place. So it's 1/100th. That's all you gotta know. Okay? That's all you gotta know right now. Question?
Yes, can I go to the office and get an ibuprofen? My stomach really hurts.
Ibuprofen is not gonna help you. Yeah, that's not gonna help your stomach. You'll be alright. If you have to get up and have any emergency needs, then you go ahead and do that, but you'll be fine. Okay? Alright. Now, look at next to that. You can't even see the square that represents 1,000th. Look at that. Look at the square all the way to the right on page 564. It's so small, they have to kind of magnify it. Okay? So part of one of those tiny little hundredth pieces, a tiny part that you can't even see, is going to be 1/1000th. Or we'll just say 1,000th. Okay? Can't even see it on there. They have to magnify it. The way we write that, 0.001. Okay? Now, remember, I look at my digit, my last digit in my decimal to know how to read it. Okay? My last digit is in what place, everyone?
Thousandths.
Thousandths place. So I say 1,000th. Okay? Yes?
So shouldn't this be like 10 tenths?
You could call it 10 tenths, you could call it 100 hundredths, you could call it 1,000 thousandths, you could call it all those things. But we're just going to make it simple and say 1/1 for the fraction and just say 1. So that whole piece, remember, anytime your numerator and denominator are the same, you always have one whole. No matter how big your numerator and denominator are, if they're the same, it's one whole. It could be a million millionths. It could be a trillion trillionths and still be one, no matter what. If your numerator and denominator are the same, it's always the same as 1. Okay? Alright, so you got that. So we got the thousands like that. But what if we have like this number? Okay? No. Still a decimal number. Let's say I have a 4 in my tenths place, a 6 in my hundredths place, a 3 in my thousandths place. Okay? What we do, first we kind of ignore this stuff for now. Okay? We read it like we would normally read the number. Okay? We would normally say what? Everyone? 463. And then we look at our last digits and see what place it's in. What place is that last digit in, everyone?
Thousandths.
So we're going to say 463 thousandths. Okay? Always look at that last digit to find out what name they're going to give to it. Okay? It's 463 thousandths. Understand so far? Yes?
What about this one?
Okay, well, let's just worry about this for now. I want to make sure you understand this first before we go to that. because that's what we're going to be working on together later. Okay? So 463 thousandths. Okay? Now, but what if I had a 0 here, a 1 here, and a 9 here? Okay? Remember, I just look at the digits that are not 0. I'm going to read them as I see them. What number do I see there?
19.
19. And what is my last digit in, everyone?
Thousand.
So that's 19 thousandths. Okay? Got it so far? Okay? Alright. What about if I had this? Okay? I'm just going to look at the number as I see it. I have 2 thousandths. Yes?
I hear someone knocking on the door out there.
I'm going to let someone else deal with that. Okay? Let's worry about this. Alright, so let's look at, well, you know, one more thing. Let's say, I'm not going to write these on this up here, but I'll leave it for now. Okay? If I have, let's say, 527, what place, raise your hand and tell me, what place is my 7 in? Raise your hand and tell me. What place is my 7 in? Anna Grace? It's in the thousands place. Good. Okay. How about this? In that number, what place is my 7 in? What place is my 7 in, Daryl?
The 10th.
In the 10th place. Okay. Let's do one more. There we go. Okay, now what place is my 7 in? Yes? Hundreds. Very good. Okay, so we got tenths, hundreds, thousands to get that way. Alright, let's try some on our whiteboards. Can I have your whiteboards out? On page 565, number 2, I want you to write that decimal as a fraction. Write it as a fraction. Is that 11 thousandths? Alright, let me see them. You should have. I can't see yours, anyways. You should have 95 thousandths because that 5, you see that 5 is in the thousandths place. So you would say 95 thousandths. Okay, let me write it up here, give you an idea. And if you need to, on your homework or something, if you need to draw a thing like this, you can do that too. So you see how that 5 now is in the thousandths place, right? So then you'd say 95 thousandths. Yes?
What if it